So I am going to be starting my first year of university this September, but I did take a gap year, so that means that all of my close friends who did decide to go to university have already finished their first year and they're preparing for their second. So I decided to ask two of my closest friends what their advice is for people who are about to start their first year at university. This video is perfect whether you're a commuter, whether you're going to stay in student accommodation, no matter what university you're going to or what course you're studying. So for a little bit of context, one of my friends goes to the University of Worcester and she studies psychology there. She also commutes, so it's around a 40-minute drive on the motorway to Worcester and back to Birmingham, where we all live. My other friend also studies psychology but at the University of Birmingham, and she lived in student halls for the first year, and she's now going to be moving into a student house with some of her uni mates for her second and likely third year as well. So two relatively similar but albeit very different experiences. So I thought that these two girls were the perfect people to ask for this video. Now this one is a massive one. A lot of people kind of big up the idea of Freshers Week because it's when you're meeting a bunch of people for the first time. If you're in accommodation, you're moving into your halls and you're meeting everyone who's kind of in your flat and everything and who's in other flats and stuff. And it's kind of just a big, how many conversations can I have about who I am, where I'm from, and what course I'm studying? A little bit more context, I feel like I should have said this at the start of the video. I technically have already been in first year, but I dropped out before I started any lectures. So this is kind of like my first year take two. So I haven't properly experienced the authentic first year at uni vibes. So now we got that out of the way. So both of my mates really said that Freshers is overhyped. It's fun, don't get me wrong, but it's not going to be the peak of your university experience because the people that you're going to meet in Freshers Week, most likely you'll never speak to them again, even though you'll have about 10,000 different conversations about the exact same thing. Like I said, who you are, where you're from, and what course you're studying. Don't think of it as the be all and end all, especially because as well, a lot of people, obviously, like I said, they'll be moving into student accommodation, they'll be making friends with their flatmates. You'll kind of see cliques forming during Freshers and that kind of beginning of uni, right at the beginning. You'll kind of see friendship groups forming based on whoever lives together, but chances are by the time you'll get to even December, January time, friendship groups will be completely different based on, if you've joined a society, your course. So if you want to go out during Freshers Week, you can, obviously, you have free will, who am I to tell you what to do? But don't stress if it's not some wild, unforgettable, this was the best week of my life kind of vibe. Because Freshers Flu is also a thing, so you're not behind if you don't have a friendship group by day two. Especially if you're planning to commute like I am as well, you'll kind of feel a bit more disconnected due to obviously people making friends with others in their flat. Commuting isn't a death sentence when it comes to making friendships. This last year, when I was gonna start my first year initially, I wasn't really looking forward to the fact that I was commuting because, like I said just now, a lot of people at uni live on campus, they live in the accommodation, they kind of live in that area, so they'll make friends with people in their flat, they'll go on nights out with said people, and obviously because you're commuting, you're kind of away from that, so you kind of feel a bit detached to the vibe. So this is more my friend that goes to Worcester's point of view because she obviously commutes, but it's very much a point where you kind of have to put yourself out there just that little bit more than what you think you need to. So just doing things like staying on campus for longer than you need to, just to chill in a library or chill with friends that you do make, just so that you're actually spending time on campus rather than going straight to uni and as soon as lectures are done, go straight back, because how are you going to make friends as quickly that way? Coming from a person who absolutely hates small talk and getting to know people conversations, I hate initiating conversations with people, so I'll very much hate the experience of having to put myself out there, but I know it will do me so much more good than bad. Because if I don't talk to them again, so what? But if I do make friends, which I likely will, I won't regret feeling weird about, putting myself out there because I'll be making friends at the end of the day. Another thing as well, which is kind of wishy-washy, I feel like so many uni students say this, but joining societies is another great way to make friends. From my conversations with my mates, I don't think any of them actually joined a society for the whole period of first year. I know that my mate in Birmingham goes to a few cocktail things. I don't know whether there's a cocktail society or anything like that, but I know that she has done a few society things. So joining societies, especially if you're a commuter, will definitely help you, because that's just another way to make friends. Even if you're saying yes to stuff that you feel a bit kind of, oh, I'm really like putting myself out there for this, it might be a bit of an inconvenience. Sometimes saying yes to more things will just put yourself out there more automatically. Obviously, if you genuinely feel more uncomfortable, you don't have to say yes to absolutely everything. I know I won't say yes to absolutely everything, but it's just the case of just pushing yourself out of your comfort zone so that you can make these friends. Even if you feel a bit left out at the beginning of uni, because like I said, flatmate cliques and stuff like that. But literally, trust me, by December, people won't get along with their flatmates. Some people will be besties with their flatmates, but most of the time, people will have their flatmates and they'll have their course mates or have society mates and stuff like that. So the friendship groups will kind of be a lot more varied and dispersed. Obviously, for me, I'll be commuting to uni because I literally live like a 10-15 minute drive away, probably like 10 minutes on the train as well, if that. So I'll be saving a lot of money by commuting. But yeah, you also kind of need to romanticize, that commute to uni, because sometimes like people commute hours and I don't understand how they do that. I could never do that. For the uni I was going to go to, the commute probably would have been like 2 hours there and back, and that would have absolutely killed me. Just making sure to put yourself out there because you're commuting so that you can make friends. It sounds easier said than done. Coming from an introvert, I dread the time where I'm going to have to actually put myself out there and act very, very social. But we'll ride the wave, Okay, so this one's more about accommodation. So this is from like my Birmingham friend's POV. So when she moved into her accommodation, I've literally went in her accommodation that she was in. It's not cramped, but it was bigger than I thought. Like, it can fit a double bed in and also room around that double bed, which I thought was quite nice. But she also had her own bathroom. Amazing. I don't know how I'd cope in a shared bathroom. Like, a shared kitchen's enough, but a shared bathroom is like a whole other thing. A lot of accommodations kind of have, a list of things you can have in your room versus things that you can't have in your room. So just double check with your accommodation people, kind of the stuff that you're allowed, because you don't want to buy all of this stuff like candles and, stuff like that, and then you get there and you can't use them. Don't buy things that you'll end up not using or you'll have no room for when you actually get to your accommodation. So buy the basics that you need, like the absolute basics. Obviously, because I'm not going into accommodation, I couldn't really give you a list of stuff that you need, but kind of like the basic stuff. So from what I saw at my friend's accommodation, kind of like your own cutlery, bowls, plates and mugs, cups and stuff, but I wouldn't get too much of this. Like I said, kind of like, basic things, basic stuff for your room. If you have your own bathroom, kind of basic stuff there. And so when you actually get to your accommodation, you kind of have more of an idea, okay, a nice little cute fake plant would work well on that shelf, let's just buy one, you kind of have more of a vibe because you're actually in the room with all of your stuff there. So yeah, don't overcompensate and buy useless things. Okay, this one's a big one, so take note of this one. Obviously, the jump between A-level or BTEC to uni is a kind of bigger jump than, they say, GCSE and A-level. Because I took a BTEC, it was 100% coursework, I didn't take any written exams. My course at uni is structured in the exact same way. So I'm curious to see how big that jump will feel. But obviously, depending on what course you're doing and what uni you're going to and stuff like that, the jump will feel different. I've literally been in one of my mates' lectures for psychology, and sometimes I'd look around and I'd see some people, like writing notes on their laptop and stuff, but then I'd see other people looking so confused. But it's all right if you're confused at things, especially in lectures as well, because it just means that you're learning something new. So don't be afraid to ask questions. So whether that be emailing your tutor, researching online, messaging course friends, or just anything like that. It's brave enough as it is to admit that you need help with something, but it's a whole nother thing to actually ask for that help and accept help as well. It's not a reflection of your intelligence or anything like that. Obviously, uni and college, sixth form are set up very differently, especially when it comes to lectures and seminars. When you're in a lecture, you're literally sat having to make notes as a lecturer literally just speaks off a slide. There's no pauses or anything like that, so you kind of just have to take the information in and write down the important stuff. You kind of have to learn to adapt, but Everyone's in the same boat, don't forget as well. You won't be the only one feeling that way. Romanticising the more boring bits of uni that people don't usually talk about. This one is one that my friend who goes to Worcester really emphasized, because she said that some of the most exciting parts of her uni experience, or the most enjoyable, were some of the more quiet moments. So whether that was sitting in the library just studying, listening to her music, walking around campus with a coffee with her mate. If you were to ask someone what their favourite part of uni was, some people would say the parties, some people would say the vibe that they had in their flat, or just something different. So if your first few weeks of uni feel uneventful, don't panic and think that you're doing anything wrong, or that you're not putting yourself out there enough, because not everything has to be this kind of main character chaos, loads of different things going on every single week. Sometimes it's just about just quietly thriving in the uni space. This one came up a lot, especially with my mate who studies at Birmingham. A lot of uni students download Uber, right? I know this as someone who lives in Birmingham, who's drove past this uni my whole entire life. I live a 10-minute drive away. A lot of uni students will just end up Ubering everywhere because they don't understand the public transport and just stuff like that. They'll just be wasting money that they could be saving, is what I'm trying to say. And they'll be kind of having brunch every weekend and buying drinks like it's water, you know what I mean? Proper splashing out on the student finance money, which, if you're living in accommodation, not the best thing to do, because you have to be paying that rent, But a lot of the time, you'll kind of feel the pressure to keep up with whatever your mates are doing, especially if you live in accommodation and you see them paying for things, spending money on this, that and the other, and you're kind of not, because you're budgeting, hats off to you, because a lot of people can't even budget. So if your budget is tight, own that and just stick to your budget, because trust me, you will thank yourself in the long run. So whether that's bringing packed lunches to campus, doing pre-drinks at your flat before you actually go out clubbing or wherever you're going, or suggesting cheap/free alternative plans around the area where your uni is, or a bit further out if you want to go exploring more of the city, because the big thing is that the right people won't care that you're either not spending a lot of money, or if you're actually trying to budget your money and spend your money wisely, As a commuter, obviously I'll save a lot more money when it comes to, especially accommodation, food, etc. But I will still be keeping an eye on what I'm actually spending, because just because there's more money to spend doesn't necessarily mean that you have to spend it all in one go, or splash it out just because. Your mental health might wobble, but it's not a bad thing. It doesn't mean that you're failing. It doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. This is what both of my mates touched upon, because they both talked about time periods where they felt kind of low, whether it was about homesickness, missing friends, feeling behind on work, feeling a bit stuck, or they couldn't ask for help or anything like that. There's support systems, there's support services at every single uni, no matter where you are. Use them, even if you feel a bit, nervous about using them, or think, well, what if, people see me as weird for using the student support services. Literally no one will care, because your mental health matters more than anything, right? Message your mates back from home. This is another kind of reason why I'm glad that I'm commuting, because I'm still at home. All of my close friends that are at uni either still live at home because they're commuting, or their accommodation isn't that far away, so they can still come and visit, and we can still visit them and stuff quite easily. It's not that expensive, and it's quite close and everything. I can still visit my family on the weekends. I can still spend time with my family during the week because I'm at home, and I can still spend time with my friends at home because I have friends that didn't go to uni and they go to work, so I still get to spend time with these people. Okay, this one's another big one, because a lot of people say that uni is this massive big life move thing, which it kind of is when you think about it, because it's a completely new environment. A lot of you will be moving to a different city with completely new people who you've never met before, completely different vibe and everything like that. But a lot of people expect that, I have to find out what my dream career is, who my soulmate's going to be, who my best friends in life are going to be, all within not only the 3 years that you're at uni at least, but the first year. But actually, everyone is in the same boat, and they're there to get their degree. You're all growing as people during this time. It's not a race to see who figures out what their dream career is first, who can find their soulmate the fastest. If you feel lost sometimes, it means that you're doing something right, because that's part of figuring out who you are. You go through different paths to find out what works and what doesn't, and if you do get lost, it's just a sign that you're actively trying to find out these things like your dream career, who you really are, who your real friends are. So I'm going into my first year at uni with all of these tips in my mind, thanks to my best friends. And so I hope that you can take these tips on board for when you start your first year as well. If you've got any other like real but random tips about uni that no one talks about, you can leave them in the comments if you have already been in your first year before. And if you haven't started your first year yet, what are you most excited about? For me, I'm just more excited about just that university experience. Obviously, because I took a gap year, I've seen all of my friends kind of like talk about their first year uni experience. I kind of have had secondhand accounts of it, but I want to experience it myself, especially because it's a course that I'm really, really interested in. So I'm excited to see other like minded people who are into similar things and interacting with them and just having something to do with my time. So that's what I'm most excited about. But yeah, there will be uni content coming by the time that September comes around. So if you want to stay tuned for that, be sure to subscribe and turn on post notifications as well so that you get notified every time I upload a brand new video every Saturday at 5 p.m. UK time. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching and I'll catch you guys around. Bye!